Good evening. Welcome to Legal Talk, brought to you by the law offices of O'Donnell, Weiss, and Megay. Your life, your business, your law firm. We're at 41 High Street, Pottstown, 347 Bridge Street, Phoenixville, and we are at owmlaw.com. My name's Dave Megay. I'm one of the attorneys in the office, and I'm joined by two other attorneys in the office, Joe Koury to my left, Jim Kovaleski to my right. Jim and Joe do a lot of business planning and real estate transactions. So tonight, this is part 3. Hopefully you've already watched parts 1 and 2 on our website here, but this is part 3 of a 3-part mini-series, if you will, about limited liability companies, otherwise known as LLCs. The first part of the series, we talked just generally about how LLCs work. The second part, background about LLCs, where they came from, etc., and the pros and cons of them. Second part, we talked about how the LLCs work, how they operate, the internal, call it, administrative structure of an LLC. Tonight, we're going to talk about the very exciting tax consequences of LLCs. Joe, how does the IRS look at an LLC tax-wise? Assume the LLC has $100 worth of gross income, $90 worth of operating expenses. You got a $10, if my math is correct, $10 net income. How does the IRS treat that $10 worth of net income?
It depends.
Figures.
How do you like that?
Spoken like a true lawyer. Go ahead.
Well, let's assume that the LLC only has one member.
Right.
Because a lot of LLCs
That's
that
popular.
we do.
Right.
Mm-hmm. If it does nothing from a tax perspective, it's what's called a disregarded entity.
What do you mean, if what does nothing? The LLC does nothing?
Correct.
Okay.
If it makes no special tax elections.
Okay.
It does nothing. It's what's called a disregarded entity.
Okay.
It's as if the LLC doesn't exist at all.
From a tax standpoint, but it does from a legal standpoint.
Correct.
And if the folks watch part 1, they'll know why that's important.
Right.
Tease. Go ahead. Yeah.
So what happens there is that $10 in profit would flow through to the individual sole owner.
Okay.
And he or she would report that on their 1040, their regular income tax return.
Okay, so it doesn't get taxed at the LLC corporate level, if you will.
Correct.
Awesome. But that sounds, Jim, like a lot like the S Corporation.
It is. So the really interesting thing in my mind, talking about tax and LLCs, is that if you have more than one member, it opens up really a world of possibilities. So if you have 2 or more members, the LLC can elect to be taxed as a partnership. It can elect to be taxed as a corporation and not have that pass through, so that you can have it a 2-level layer of taxation where the corporation is responsible and the members are only responsible to report anything to the extent that there's a distribution. And then the LLC can also elect to be an S corporation. And we get back to the pass-through where there's no tax reported at the LLC level. It's all done at the shareholders. So I've had clients that have elected at some point one or more than one of all those options, depending upon whether tax what they want their taxes to look like, and working with their accountants to figure that out. Sometimes it's beneficial to keep it all up at the LLC level. It's rare, but sometimes it is. Other times it's great to have the pass-through and say you want to be able to have a check, like a W-2 income check coming from the LLC, so you do an S corporation. Or if you just want the real easy partnership, you just elect that one. So there's a lot of flexibility there.
And guys, when we represent clients forming corporate entities, in this case LLCs, it's extremely important to us that the client consult with and we communicate with a CPA for that client.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Joe, we have a number of local CPAs in the Delaware Valley, Tri-County area with whom we share common customers or common clients, and it's important, folks, that you don't just willy-nilly form an LLC, don't talk to an attorney, don't talk to a CPA, and wing it, because that's how clients get in trouble.
That is true.
Let's talk, I think it was in the first show, guys, we talked about LLCs in the context of owning real estate.
Yes.
A good example would be, Jim, I'm going to buy half a double on Beach Street in Pottstown or on Gay Street here in Phoenixville, and it's a residential property, one unit, and I'm going to rent it out to families and hopefully improve it, reap the benefit of the rental income, and then hopefully it appreciates in value. But Jim, I bought that property a week ago, and my cousin, who does the same thing in Cleveland, told me that I should form a LLC and own the real estate in an LLC. What are some of the issues there? So I own it myself individually because I'm now just thinking about this.
So after the fact, generally the two biggest issues that we run into is transfer tax, realty transfer tax.
That's a Pennsylvania state realty transfer tax.
Yep.
Okay.
So any type of transfer of real estate, except for a few limited exceptions, is going to be subject to at least a 2%, if not a higher, depending on where the property is located, transfer tax, meaning 2% of the value. And clients that find themselves in this situation often say, "Well, I'm just going to do the dollar deed." So it's really
what's 2% of a dollar?
2 cents. So it's
Right.
not really a whole lot. But the state doesn't look at it that way. They want to know what the actual value, the fair market value of that property is, and that's what you're paying the 2% on. So it can often be a bit of a bite to do it that way. The other big thing is that if you got a mortgage secured or a loan to buy that property and secured by a mortgage recorded against that property, I would bet dollars to donuts that in that mortgage there's a clause called a due on transfer clause, which says that if you transfer any interest in that property without the bank's approval or without paying off the loan, the bank can accelerate your loan, meaning call it all due right now, which usually is not a very good thing for our clients. So if you bought it individually, there's ways to work to get it into the LLC, but there might be some costs associated with that.
Okay.
So Jim, I just want to add, to make it absolutely crystal clear. So let's just assume that in Dave's example, you're the individual owner, and then you form an LLC where you're the sole member. For both of Jim's issues that he identified, it doesn't matter. So just because you're the same on both sides, except on one side you're the sole member of an LLC, the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue doesn't view it as that. It views the LLC owned solely by you as different than just you individually.
And rightfully, that makes sense.
So realty transfer tax can be imposed again when you transfer it into the LLC.
Well, Joe,
Similarly, with the lender, they're going to view the LLC, even though you're the only owner, as different than you individually being the borrower.
Good point. Good point. In the 45 seconds or a minute we have left, well, then what should I have done? I came to Jim after I bought the property. In a perfect world, if I would have called you a month before I even signed an agreement of sale, formed my corporate entity or whatever, what should I have done with that agreement of sale? What should I tell my realtor?
Well, under recent amendments to the LLC Act, actually, I don't think there's any reason why you shouldn't form an LLC today before you even sign the agreement of sale in the LLC name. It used to be people would say, well, we're going to wait and see if we're going to form the LLC until we get through our due diligence
like
period.
Inspections or what? Yeah, what if I form an LLC, sign the agreement of sale, and the deal falls apart? Then I have this LLC I can't do anything with.
It used to be a bigger deal to what we call dissolve the LLC. Now it's not.
Now
they
it's not.
amended the LLC Act to make it comparable to the corporation statute, which allows you to dissolve before business activity takes place.
Okay. So the clients, the people who are watching today, should contact you guys or us, the office, if they're considering buying a rental property. Joe and or Jim can talk you through the procedures, the logistics of, do you form the LLC first, then sign the contract, the agreement of sale, which in my thinking is optimum, or what are the consequences of me signing the agreement of sale in my individual name and then transferring it into then forming an LLC and going to closing.
There's a whole lot of technical hoops that have to be jumped through in that regard.
And we
to-
can help with that.
To satisfy the Department of Revenue that transfer tax shouldn't be imposed twice.
Okay, good. Well, folks, Jim Kovaleski, Joe Koury, thank you. Folks, you've been watching Legal Talk, brought to you by O'Donnell, Weiss, and Metay Law Offices in Phoenixville and in Pottstown. Please contact us for all your legal needs, in particular what we've been talking about over the last 3 shows, and that is real estate investing, corporate entities, LLCs, etc. Your life, your business, your law firm. Have a great, great day.